Right, I'm trying to do more updates to keep you posted on what's going on with Bitcoin, with the indicators. Again, we're seeing crazy stuff happen. We're seeing Trump announcing the strategic crypto reserve, big rally, and then the rally is all given back, going back again. Can get a higher low for a test of our low from Friday. We got some very, very bullish signals, but Trump announcing that on Sunday, and then, as expected, the tariffs come into play on Tuesday. Trump dashes hopes for a last-minute Canada-Mexico deal ahead of the 25% tariffs. Get it. Still may get a deal, still may get more concessions out of Canada and Mexico. The tariffs lasted about a day and a half, 2 days, and then they were paused last time around. Do we see the same thing? Sentiment is extremely bearish. You know, the crypto fear greed index, we had reached a reading of 10. Same thing with the S&P 500, you know, with the fear greed index for the stock market, we reached extremes. We're at levels where bottoms develop. Watching, but Bitcoin still got a shot at that bottom at the 200 period that I've talked about. Far it is holding. Don't forget, we got the tariffs tomorrow. Then we got Trump's address to Congress, the State of the Union, but he hasn't been been president long enough to where they usually just call it the president addressing Congress with their first address of a term. So again, he could say some things about tariffs. He could say some things about the crypto strategic reserve. The reserves there, and again, also concerns now about the Ukraine war, which again, short-term geopolitical issues sometimes intensify things, but again, usually they don't last very long for geopolitical issues, but that's part of it. But the tariffs are big. The strategic reserve is a big thing we'll be watching. Let's take a look at some of the charts, and I'll try to be brief. Great detail, my last update. If you want to see more detail, go watch that. Taking place that we're trying to bounce off the 100-period moving average. This is my LA wave count, and again, I think you have wave 3 over here. I think you have this wave 4 right here, and if we can try to bottom, again, I think you're going to get this 5-leg push higher up above the 109,000 level, moving back above 100,000, but then I think you're going to end up topping up there. So this is what I'm looking at right here, because if Bitcoin has bottomed, as I think it did, or if we even go down a little bit lower and hit that trend line and then bottom again, and we can push back up and start a reversal, you can get this final leg higher, which I think is going to likely be the case. I think you're going to have a good March. Seasonality, I talked about it, is very good in March. It has been the last 4 years. You've had a rally in March for the last 4 years. If we look at this area up close, I showed you on the 4-hour chart a moment ago, but let me just show you up close right here what I'm looking at. Here's a count I showed you on the 4-hour chart. This is also the 4-hour chart of Bitcoin. And again, here's what I'm looking at. Okay, if we did in fact bottom and we get a higher low here, and we're selling off right now a little bit on for Tuesday, if we can hold, do we have the, and I showed you another shorter term count that got invalidated. This is another short term count. If this low can hold, do we have a 1 and a 2, and then we get 3, break the trend line, get 4, 5, and then get a pullback maybe for the back test at a Fibonacci retracement. And again, if we do, then we can make our way higher after that to bust up through 109,000. And do we end up getting, you know, a 3, a 4, and a 5, and going up to our trend line in the weekly time frame, which would be up in this area here. Now that would take us towards the 135,000 area. It would be lower than that if we reached it quicker. It would be higher than that if we took our time reaching it. The trend line is my target, not a number. But again, just something worth watching. Do we have, you know, a 5-leg push developing here that's going to give us that final phase of the blow off top? I think you're going to see that happen. We'll see if we can get the rally, if the low can hold or not. We'll see if rally everybody calms down a little bit. We got a lot of angry moon boys on our hands with pitchforks and torches. Point this the biggest rug pull in history. A lot of people angry with Trump. Apparently, see if we're getting a pullback. Does the president say anything in what should be the State of the Union? I don't think they officially call it that. The first the first year of a president's term as he just took office. Again, the crypto summit on Friday, Powell speaking, the jobs report on Friday. We're going to get tariffs. We'll be watching to see how this unfolds. If we do take this level out, and I'm wrong about the 200 period, we'll be watching the trend line from the 2023 low that I showed you earlier. Support the channel with the link directly below. Allows me to be able to provide you this information. The link, it'll take you to a secure site. You can donate any amount you want. Thank you for your consideration for that. We'll keep you posted. Now, again, we had the bullish divergence form, triple bullish divergence form here on the 4-hour chart of Bitcoin. That gave us this bottom. And again, that was at the 200 period moving average. I told you I thought that was a bottom. And then we got the confirmation the next day. And then Trump on Sunday announced the crypto strategic reserves. And again, we saw the big rally. It was about like, what, 12% or something like that. And then we've given all of that back now. And we've come back to where we first had that rally. So again, I think that we do have a bottom on Bitcoin, but we've got a lot going on. The risk is that the tariffs rattle the market further and crypto further, and that we take out the 200 period moving average. I think these bullish divergences are likely forming a bottom. Just as I told you when I called the day of the top over here, I told you this divergence, I believed, was marking the top. We had that rally and the reversal of 8%, and then we went back up. We got the lower high. I told you again that I called that as a top. That was correct. Got the sell-off correct. We did go below the January low. I thought that could possibly hold, but I was wrong about that. We took it out, and I told you if we did take it out that we could form wave 4 over here. I still think we're going to new highs. This is a possibility. This is Elliott wave. It's speculation, but it's possible that this is what is taking place, that we're getting a 1 and a 2, and that we're going to get this 3 to break the downward trend line and then go up and get this move, and then maybe a shallow back test to back test it, and then go off and go break to new highs. But this is what could take place if we see this move continue onward and upward to challenge the highs at 109,000. Then this very well could be what could be in place right here. I think you got a good shot at this low holding, and again, I'm marking it as a W, X, and Y pattern with an A and a B and a C, and I think that's a good shot. Now, the price action right now, we've just now started. We're into the second hour. We just started the second hour into the Tuesday session, and here we are just kind of quiet. So we're going to be watching. Do we end up setting up a higher low here? Does this low hold? My guess is it will, but I could be wrong on that if signals don't turn back to bullish and we can't get back above these levels. I'm going to be watching the 200. Can we get back above the 200 here? Can we get back above the trend line? Are we pulling back to build momentum to do that? So we've had this spectacular rebound, okay? And I mean, you got a lot of people angry that this thing has pulled back right now. I mean, I'm looking at a lot of the Moon Boys, and man, they are just ticked, calling this a pump and dump scheme. And I don't think that Trump's going to let this go down. I think that you're going to hear some positive things. We got that White House Crypto Summit on Friday. We've got Jerome Powell speaking on Friday. We've got during the market session, by the way, and we have jobs report on Friday. So a lot going on there, but you got that crypto summit going on that could be a positive thing. It's going to be talking to addressing Congress and talking to the nation there. Tuesday night, does he say something about tariffs that rattles things, or does he say something about crypto that makes us rally higher? Both. We'll be watching to see what happens. But tomorrow, we're going to see those tariffs being kicked in. Are they paused? Do we get more concessions out of Canada and Mexico like we did last time? We very well could. Again, Trump's a businessman. He's putting in the tariffs, not because he wants tariffs, but he wants to get concessions, and he wants to stop the fentanyl coming across the border, and he wants better trading conditions with other countries. So again, you know, the media is trying to tell us we're going to get this trade war. How do we know we're going to get a trade war? How do we know that? When if by Trump doing this, it removes all these tariffs. And one other thing I want to say this, everybody's freaking out. Oh, it's going to cause all this inflation. Well, if, Europe has more tariffs than the United States. Is this causing all this inflation over there? Why isn't there this big concern from the media that Canada's tariffs of hundreds of % on dairy products and all the tariffs over there on Euroland? Why is there not all this concern about inflation? Why is everybody so concerned? But when the United States does it, oh man, that's going to cause inflation. You see the logic here? It's stupid. And again, tariffs don't cause inflation. That's not what causes inflation. Concerns about inflation. There's concerns about a trade war. And again, are those concerns misplaced, over exaggerated? Do we end up seeing better trade agreements? I don't know. Maybe. Does Trump do something to give us a rally? The stock market and Bitcoin are extremely oversold. We're at levels of extreme fear, very, very bearish sentiment. That's what bottoms are made of. We had a reading of 10 when we were down there at the bottom. We're now at 15. We had gone up a little bit, and then it went back down. And again, we're at extreme fear. So do we see a Bitcoin bottom develop? Now, you got people out there on social media, and I was reading a lot of the posts today. People are just fit to be tied because they've been declining, and they're talking about Trump doing a big rug pull. Again, the big players are selling into the rallies, and this one is being sold right here. We're probably going to go higher. They're going to sell all the way up. They've been selling. That's why Bitcoin's been going sideways through 2024. And then it went higher, and then it went sideways some more. You've got the big money selling into the rallies, having distribution. The herd doesn't realize that that's going on. They're selling into the rallies, and that's why we're eventually going to get a top. I believe that we likely have bottomed here. And I think there's a pretty good chance that we have here. But again, here's a possibility right here. I had another smaller count. These smaller counts, again, my other one was invalidated, smaller Elliott wave count. But again, if we have bottom, I'm looking for a push higher and then a larger pullback. But this could be the beginnings of our first subwave for minor wave 5, if minor wave 4 completed over here. The gap fills on the day of the 60-minute chart of IBIT, the Bitcoin ETF. You got the gap down here, the gap filled down here, 47.91. We gapped higher with the news on Sunday, and then it was sold and we gave it back. Did we come back and fill that gap and get a higher low and go on our way? Or am I wrong about the low and we take it out? But you've got these bullish divergences. You got to hear, and with Bitcoin's 4-hour chart. Or do we go up and try to fill this gap right here and maybe bust through this level? I'm watching the 200 period. Does Bitcoin go back and test the 200 period moving average and the trend line? I think that's likely. So again, is this going to give us a higher low? If we go lower, we got that gap fill at 47.91 on IBIT. 60-minute chart here, bullish divergences have given us this bounce. Do we build upon this and end up going higher? Get really emotional. Wanted this to go up so bad, and then it went up and it pulls back now to try to fill the gap. We'll get really, really emotional. That's what the herd does. They get very, very emotional. Back to that 4-hour chart on Bitcoin again. Going to be watching. Do we clear the trend line? Do we try to get above the 200? We got above the 50. Now we pull back. Do we establish a higher low or go a little bit lower, fill that gap? Is this low, does it hold, which was just below our 200, or do we take it out? We'll be watching that. But again, I think you got a pretty good shot of a bottom. But again, people get very, very emotional here. We had this bullish divergence, push the MACD in positive territory. It's rolling over. Will it stay there, or does it go down? The risk is that we take this level out and drop below the 200 period and stay there. My guess is we're going to bounce surrounding the 200. But remember, we had that trend line right below the 200 period that we didn't quite reach. If you exclude the shadow, we did. We still may reach that trend line, though, as I've said. I got the guts to tell you what I think. I think we bottomed, but I tell you what could happen if I'm wrong, and that is that we hit that trend line from 2023. Here it is. Here's the trend line. That's the trend line right here in blue. Let me remove the red one so you can see the blue one clearly. It's this trend line. Hang on, my trend line moved on me. It's this trend line right here in blue, and we didn't quite reach it. Now, we did reach it if we exclude the shadow right here. Let me just bring that up. And again, if we exclude the shadow right here, we've reached it. or just came close to it and tried to bounce there. So again, watching this 2023 trend line, I've been talking about the 2023 trend line for the S&P 500 with the linear and the log scaling. This right here, this is our log scaling here that we've reached, the one excluding the shadow there in red. So again, going to be watching to see if we end up taking out that low. You've got this trend line, that blue trend line, just a little bit lower. Do we go down and test that level and I'm wrong about that being a bottom, or does it hold and we get a higher low? Going to be watching this. We did reach extremes on the RSI. No divergence. You don't have to get a divergence, but you could get one. So we'll be watching that. You reached an extreme many times in the past and have not formed a divergence. Other times you do. We had a negative divergence here. We've had other negative and bullish divergences, mark tops and bottoms. But if we do take out the low, this is the trend line. And again, horizontal support at the 74,000 area. This is just under 74,000. And again, the trend line coming in around the 77, between 74 and 75,000 area, depending on when we come into contact with the trend line, should we go lower. Our low so far has been 78,000. So we're going to be watching that. But these divergences did give us a sell-off. We'll be watching. Do we go a little bit lower and rebound, or do we build upon the bottoming tail and get a higher low? Right now, Bitcoin's down about just under 1% as we now have started the Tuesday session. Still trying to bounce off these other trend lines on our 200 off the more recent low, the August low here, excluding the shadow here with our log scaling, back testing this trend line right here that we had from the low here and the low here that we broke. So just some things to be paying attention to. Can the MACD recycle back up? Can the RSI turn higher above 50 and get out of this rut here? Again, directly overhead, we have our 50, our 100 period moving average, and the cloud of resistance. A little tiny bullish divergence right here on the RSI give us this bottom and bounce off the 200. Again, if we take it out, we go lower. Could see another bottoming tail if we end up trying to form a divergence at that trend line of support from the 2023 low. If this low can hold, then we'll be watching to see, do we get a higher low? Do we hold above the 200 period moving average? But right now, we're moving back down, and could that fill the gap on IBIT, this gap higher on the news about the crypto strategic reserves? Overhead, you have horizontal resistance, and up here you have the highs and resistance up there. Should we be able to clear the 100 and the 50 period moving average? You have a rally and a reversal off of the 20 period moving average. So just some things to be paying attention to. And keep in mind, if the dollar, and this is the dollar weekly chart, if it continues to slide, and it is right now, if it continues to slide, that can help to move to back test. I don't think the dollar moves to new lows. A lot of people are saying it will. I don't believe it will. It's broken out. It's back tested, bounced off the 200-week moving average, broke these trend lines. That's what it did at the bottom over here. Eventually, we saw the Bitcoin top. But if we pull back, that could help Bitcoin for the short term. We'll be watching. Bitcoin had this little inverse head and shoulders, not much of a right shoulder, just a little pullback right there. It went up. Came shy of the target level, but then now it's pulled back to the neckline and moved just beyond it here as we're getting the 50 back above the 200 period here on the hourly chart. Again, we've been consistently in the negative region up here on the RSI, getting a 50-50 sell signal, dropping below the 50, holding below the 50 here. We got back above it. We got it back above the 50 over here, but now we've dropped back below it and we've moved back into a bearish 50-50 signal. Again, just short term on the intraday chart. So going to be watching, can we get back above the 50 and the 200 as they get a bullish cross, something worth paying attention to. And again, moving back towards that 200 period on the 4-hour chart, can we eventually see the 50 get back above the 200 on the 4-hour chart? This is the next time frame lower. And do we try to rally back up towards the 200 in the trend line and break them if we pull back and have successfully get a higher low here? Something worth paying attention to surrounding that 200 period. Do we take out the 200 again, or do we get a higher low above this low? Bitcoin can recover. We got to get a bullish reversal of conditions. We fell short of doing that with the rally that we had on Monday. Got to get some green bars going on here at the Awesome Oscillator. Okay, this is Bitcoin futures. The narrative is, oh, we came back up and we filled the gap here with futures, and now we're going to collapse some more. So again, I think Bitcoin's likely bottoming. We hit the 200 period with the Bitcoin price, and here we came to just above the 200 period with the Bitcoin futures. And again, going to be watching. Do we see some green going on? Does the low from Friday hold? Thing with IBIT, again, haven't been able to flip it here. Again, we've been consistently bearish. Can we flip the awesome oscillators to green this week? And if we do, can we get a recovery? But right now, again, IBIT could try to fill the gap here before it comes back up to fill the gap up here, which again, it fell short of doing that. So again, which gap gets filled first? And then again, if we do fill this gap, then there's risk of taking out this low. We'll be watching the 200 period here as well on IBIT, which is a Bitcoin ETF. I'll be watching to see, do we get any green? What happens? Do we, with the tariffs, do we get another pause or do they go forward? What does Trump have to say on Tuesday night? He addresses Congress. Does he move? Does he say anything about crypto? Does he say anything about tariffs that move markets? We'll be watching. Get concessions out of Canada and Mexico. Are the tariffs paused again? We'll be watching. Again, the bearish sentiment is at extremes here. So again, we'll be watching to see if that will produce a bottom with that bottoming tail surrounding our 200 period on Bitcoin.